second White Lotus.
Give me 1 second.
We'll go together.
Cody, did you have a question? Your hand is up.
I was just making sure you knew I was here.
Excellent. All right. We have quorum.
Oh, perfect. I was just going to say good evening, everyone. We're waiting on quorum, but instead I'll say good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Balboa Park Committee of December 8th, 2022, our last meeting of the year. I'm going to pass it over to Johnny for the governor's executive order for our virtual meeting this evening.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Balboa Park Committee members, members of the public, and city staff to the Balboa Park Committee meeting. I am Balboa Park District Manager Johnny Cho. I would like to share the meeting procedures with you before we begin the meeting. The Balboa Park Committee will be conducted pursuant to the provisions of California Executive Order 2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Ralph M. Brown Act. In the interest of public health and safety, board members will participate in meetings by Zoom webinar. As such, and in accordance with the executive order, no members of the public will attend the meetings, but instead view and join the meeting proceeding via the link listed on the agenda and website. In lieu of in-person attendance, members of the public may submit their comments via a public comment web form or join the live meeting webinar. The instructions for joining the meetings were provided in advance on the website and the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the board in writing must submit a web form prior to the meeting. For those wishing to speak during the live meeting webinar, when the item on which you wish to speak is called, press *9 on the phone keypad or press the raise hand icon on your computer. When prompted, please state your name for the record and provide your public comment. You will have time allotted by the chair to provide your comment. Once your time has ended, your microphone will be muted. Pursuant to open meeting laws, no discussions or actions other than a referral shall be taken by the board on anything brought forth under non-agenda public comment. Now I'll return the meeting over to Balboa Park Committee Chairperson Molly Chase.
Thanks, Johnny. We're going to take a quick roll call to confirm attendance. When I call your name, please unmute yourself and say present. Howard Blackson.
Present.
Ding Nguyen. I see Dang, but not an unmuting. So I will say Molly Chase is present. Allison Soares.
Present.
Vic Burmarsh.
Present.
Victoria Cran.
Present.
William Aaron.
Present.
Micah Parson. Makeda Cheatham. Sarah Daw. Catherine Johnston. Chris Eddy.
Present.
We'll go back to Dang. Dang. Can we just note that Dang is here? Yeah. Okay. As a reminder, to comply with the Brown Act, all motions and second motions must be verbalized by the committee member. We will begin with approval of the minutes from October 6, 2022. Is there a motion?
I motion to approve.
Motion by William, a second by Allison. I'll ask Victor to call the roll.
Molly Chase,
Yes.
Catherine Johnston. Not here. Howard Blackson,
Yes.
Dang Nguyen,
Yes.
Allison Soares,
Yes.
Briar Marsh,
Yes.
Victoria Karan,
Abstain.
William Aaron Jr.,
Yes.
Micah Parson, Makeda Cheatham, Sarah Daw, Chris Eddy.
Yes.
701.
All right, with that, the minutes have been approved. Next, we will take non-agenda public comment.
I have two web forms. Let me read the web form before we go over. So I'm sorry. The first public comment is from Steve O'Shell. I'm sorry if I get that name wrong. His comment was good evening, Balboa Park Committee. The North Park Planning Committee recently discussed and voted on an action to assess the possibility of keeping Jacaranda Place closed even after construction is complete on Pershing Drive to increase open space and usability of Morley Field. This item was discussed, voted on, and passed by North Park community members and the North Park Planning Committee Board, which the desired outcome to contact the Balboa Park Committee to see if it is possible to keep Jacaranda Place closed. Thank you for your time and look forward to discussion on whether or not this is a possibility. The second web form I have is from Clifford Wheeler. The December night's parking likely raised thousands of dollars via the paid parking. Does your committee control that? And whether or not it does, who got the revenue? And if a private company was involved, what was the company? How was it selected? And what percentage of the dollar amount did the city or one of the city's divisions get? Thank you. That concludes my web form. Danielle Lehman has her hand up.
Good evening. Hopefully everyone can hear me. And
Yes.
on the December night's note, I'd like to first thank all of the city staff here present for a successful return to December nights. Balboa Park Marketing and Public Relations is going to have a debrief next Thursday in the afternoon. And Mike Warburton, who leads that group, just announced that he will be leaving after 5 years of work in Balboa Park. So if you do see Mike, please tell him thank you for all his service to our park. Secondly, I'd like to let everyone know that we have a new president-elect for the HPR, House of Pacific Relations International Cottages. Her name is Inky Welsh, and we have scheduled a meet and greet next Friday on the 16th of December. And lastly, my question for tonight is, when is the Balboa Park Committee going to go hybrid meetings, just like the Park and Rec Board has been doing for the last several months? Thank you very much.
Okay, Brandon Riggs is next.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Brandon Rigg, and I am a resident of North Park, and I am the new San Diego Mountain Biking Association trail liaison for Balboa Park. Some of you might know Susie Murphy, our executive director. So I'm kind of volunteering under her to help facilitate getting trail improvements done in the entirety of the park, from the East Mesa, including Florida Canyon and the West Mesa and Bridle Trail. You might know that the Mountain Biking Association has grant money available to do some of this work and has recently met with the city chief rangers. Some people in this meeting might have been in that meeting that was held last week. But basically, I'm here for any questions that might come up regarding the Mountain Biking Association's work. And basically, we're just trying to help improve the trails within the park. They are not in the greatest shape at the moment, and have not had a whole lot of maintenance over the past few years due to COVID and other various reasons. And I am just here to help do what I can. So thanks, that's all.
Thanks, Brandon. Next is Clifford.
Yeah, I'm the one that submitted the written comment. I'm not familiar with your procedures, so I apologize if I'm violating some protocol. But a lot of money was raised through
So
the parking.
Clifford, because you've already submitted the web form, you can't speak twice. So if you
That-
have anything else, you need to submit it in writing. I can't let you speak because I've read your web form.
And how about another topic? Can I speak to another topic?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not that familiar with your group, so I looked at the website. And according to the website, if I read it right, you have 12 slots and only, according to the website, only 5 are actively filled. So I don't know how you have a quorum unless the website is not up to date. And also I question your procedures and with the Brown Act in terms of not allowing public comment. The way I read the introduction to the public comment on the agenda, to even make a public comment, I had to fill out that web form. And now you're saying that once I filled out the web form, I cannot speak to it. So maybe you're following what the city council has said or the city clerk, but that is suspect. Thank you very much. And I hope you follow up on the question about revenue from the parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Stopper.
Hi, Steve Stopper from Save Starlight, and I'm not reporting from Starlight on this. I just want to say from December nights, there was just a glut of people who said that they moved from taking the what shall I say, the carnival rides out of the Palisades and creating the kind of homespun thing that happened was really appreciated. I had so many people say that they thought it was so much better. So I'm hoping that we stay along that journey. Thought the city did a great job, but I do know that a lot of people came up who, and I've been there for a long time, that removing the carnival rides definitely made, I think, for the kind of experience Balboa Park's about. Great job, everybody.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have for public comment.
Thanks, Johnny. With that, do we have any committee member comments or requests from committee members to place any items on the consent agenda this evening? Seeing none, I'm going to actually skip over the chair's report this evening, and we are going to take both the city staff reports and the partner updates. So we will start with Cody from Council Member Whitburn's office.
Hi, everyone. Great to be back with you. So a few things. One, also, the council member wants to thank again all of our park organizations and city staff, including Parks and Rec and Special Events and Filming, for all of their work to bring back a full-fledged December nights. The council member really enjoyed partaking in the opening ceremony, and we've got a lot of great feedback on how that went as well. And then a few updates from our office. First, city council budget priority memo updates are going to be due January 13th. So if you have any further input, as I'm sure everyone does, please make sure to reach out to our office ahead of that with your suggestions and input, as always. And just an FYI, next week is the inauguration council meeting. We have a new council member, Kent Lee, and the council will also be taking a vote on council president again. And there may be some changes with committee and agency assignments. So we look forward to seeing how those end up for our council member Whitburn. And then also scheduled tentatively for next week, the council member has brought forward a resolution declaring the city of San Diego a safe city for transgender, non-binary, and gender diverse youth. Depending on some circumstances, there may or may not be a press event next week about that as well. Just working along with all of the other stuff going on with council. And then I'm sure most of you have seen already, but the Burnham Center for Community Advancement has put out a paper preparing for Balboa Park's next 100 years. And we've been in communication with them as well. And the council member made a statement as the council member for Balboa Park and its neighboring committees. and this is the council member statement, I applaud the Burnham Center for Community Advancement's work to address the long-term fiscal and governance needs of Balboa Park. Every San Diegan feels a special connection to this crown jewel of our region, whether we visit the museums, our kids go on a school field trip, or we simply relax and enjoy this beautiful city. San Diego is not alone when it comes to funding and governance challenges for a large iconic park like ours. That's why I'm glad BCCA is working on learning from other models around the country, bringing together stakeholders from across the region and exploring real long overdue solutions. So thank you again to the Burnham Center and all of our park stakeholders that worked with them on that paper. That's very important to us. And if you haven't had a chance to read it already, you can check out the Burnham Center's website where you can find the full paper. And if I can put, I don't know if I can put in the chat, it looks like it's just panelists, but if you go to our council website, you can find a list of useful links there, including our most recent newsletter and our most recent fiscal year 24 budget memo, which again, we're taking further input as we look to submit an update in January. And you can always reach out to me for our office regarding anything Balboa Park related. And if there's anything else, we can work with the corresponding staff. So thanks again, everyone, and happy holidays.
Thanks so much, Cody. Tyler doesn't look to be here from SDPD. Christina?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and take care of staff updates for Johnny and Vic and myself. When it comes to the Park and Recreation Ranger team, the Ranger team is going through a restructure, and now it is led by Chief Ranger Michael Ruiz. Many of you know Michael, and the Chief Ranger position is a brand new one for our departments. We're very proud about that. As part of the reorganization, we have several other changes, including a new senior ranger for Balboa Park, who has been selected as Mike Cassidy. Our current senior ranger, Araceli Dominguez, will be transferring to the Black Mountain Open Space Division. We'll also be announcing in the coming days the appointment of a new supervising park ranger, which is also another new position for our ranger staff. We look forward to introducing all of you to Senior Ranger Michael Cassidy very soon, and all of our new appointments will begin their assignments on December 10th. The individuals that were experiencing homelessness and temporarily housed at BPAC, or otherwise known as the Balboa Park Activity Center, have been moved back to Golden Hall downtown. And we just want to thank you all for your understanding and your patience as we worked through this. And the BPAC facility is now reopened to the public and will resume its normal programming. The water pipeline replacement that's been happening over some time now in Balboa Park is reaching its finality. We have transferred and replaced all of the new lines successfully. And thank you again for your understanding and for all the stakeholders that may have been temporarily impacted by this. We're working through some very small outcomes and final adjustments for that, but in large part, the project is reaching its conclusion. And again, we appreciate your flexibility on that front. The facilities division for the city is set to begin another exterior restoration for the Palisades area with the Recital Hall and Palisades building. That building will get new paint and plaster over the coming months, and we look forward to sharing those upgrades with you as we move forward. The city's mobility and sustainability departments also continue their work on redesign efforts for the Balboa Drive area, as well as scooter and bike corral locations throughout the park. They've started to do some community outreach efforts. Earlier this week, we met with the Bakers Hill Community Group, and we will be meeting with this body in the new year as well. So we look forward to sharing those redesign efforts with you and seeking your input on that front. When it comes to lighting in the park, we also know that this is a long overdue upgrade need, and we're happy to announce that we have secured a new contractor that specializes in electricians and engineers that are necessary. So we are moving forward with that. That effort is led by District Manager Vic Neva, and we are focusing on parking lot lights, post lights, and also the Marston Loop area, which of course, again, we recognize that this is a long overdue need. So we're very excited to be moving forward with this, obviously for public safety needs, et cetera. So we will continue to provide updates with you or to you on that front as well. When it comes to December nights, we wanted to make sure that we thanked you on behalf of my entire team, as well as the special events team, for everything that you all did to be part of the event, even if you just attended, hoping that you enjoyed it. I'm going to share just a few words from our special events director, Natasha Kulora. She would like to thank you all for your support and grace as we return to a traditional December nights after 3 years. With many new team members and a new event organizer on the city events and Park and Rec side, as well as new staff for some of our institutions, we didn't know what we didn't know. So we definitely have lots of learning to do, and we did the best that we could for this year. And we will certainly be improving our processes on a go-forward basis. We're excited to secure sponsorships that enabled us to feature 2 institutions in the family zone that replaced the carnival, and that we are hopeful that we can expand on those opportunities for next year and beyond. We're excited to feature various groups from Balboa Park in the media as well. And we will be at a marketing and public relations meeting next week to hear ideas on what can be improved for future events. And we will continuously be working with all of you and other stakeholders to make sure that this event improves year over year. And we'd also like to make sure that we had a special shout out to Michael Warburton from the Cultural Partnership, as well as Jordan White and Radka from Forever Balboa Park for their assistance and insight and support and invaluable participation. So we very much appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And one final note, as we mentioned, Michael Warburton, as many of you have mentioned and are aware, Michael Warburton, after many years, is leaving Balboa Park for other professional opportunities. And on behalf of my entire team and me personally, I just wanted to let you all know that we will very much miss Michael and his smile and his positive outlook. And we thank you for everything that you've done for the park over the last few years. So thank you, Michael. And that is it for us. Turn it back to you.
Thanks so much, Christina. And this time we are actually able to have some time on the agenda to hear from our nonprofit partners. So we'll take the updates now. Elizabeth Babcock, or the representative from Forever Balboa Park. Elizabeth is here. Yay, Elizabeth, we're excited to have you. Thank you for joining.
Hey, hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate the chance to give you a quick report. We're later on the agenda to talk about the botanical building, so I'm not going to do that right now. But what I wanted to actually share with you is I want to make sure that you all are aware that the San Diego Foundation actually has grant funding available for nonprofit organizations that want to do improvement projects in the park. And these are projects that are either beautification, enhancement of grounds or institutions, enrichment of cultural or recreational programs, or maintenance of grounds or institutions. And if you aren't aware, this is through the San Diego Foundation, the Balboa Park Endowment. I'm just doing this as a friendly service to the community. Our organization doesn't run that program. The person you would want to contact is Heather Rossetti at the San Diego Foundation, all right? And her email is real easy. It's just heatherr@sdfoundation.org. And with that, I just wanted to also just conclude real quick by thanking everybody at the city for a wonderful December nights. And I also wanted to just acknowledge that we've noticed many of the things that Parks and Rec have been working on, like the improved lighting. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And we look forward to saying thank you to Ranger Araceli for all her wonderful work and welcoming all the new folks in their new roles with that change. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Elizabeth, with that. If Peter Kaminsky is here from BPCP, or a representative from BPCP.
I am here. Thank you. Oops, I just lost. Thank you very much. Really, there are just a number of elements I wanted to talk about tonight. The first is that we would very much like to just echo Christina's comments regarding Mike Warburton leading the, very excited about his future, of course, saddened by his departure. But will leave a big gap in the cultural partnership, but very pleased that he's able to help us to recognise and identify a replacement, as impossible as that may be. So, Mike, thank you for all the work you've done, and I'm sure everybody would support. Second, thank you to Natasha, direct recognition for Natasha for the work in pulling that massive December nights event together. How that is achieved is completely beyond me. And I know she can only do it with the help of the Parks and Rec team and all the excellent work she has done there. So thank you to Natasha, and thank you very, very much to Parks and Rec as well. Very pleased that 8 out of 9 council members in their first memos, and we look forward to 9 out of 9 council members supporting arts and culture funding with the budget memos. I would ask all of you to continue to support arts and culture as well as the park in those budget memos, as they are really important for the budgeting process, not just for the arts and culture. That really is the funding. There is what continues to program organisations within the park and their operations. Extremely important. So thank you to our council member, Councilman Whitburn, but also to the other council members as well. And then finally, just to highlight the experience plan that is currently underway. An element of the framework for the future, city's framework for the future for Balboa Park. We're very excited. A lot of work has been done in the last 6 months, as I'm sure many of you are aware. And we very much look forward to coming back to committee and sharing the progress that has been made and the identities. A lot of great outcomes and a lot of great possibilities coming forth from that plan. So thank you very much for tonight.
Thanks, Peter. Do we have Ross Porter from Committee of 100?
I don't see him on here.
Okay, with that, I know we have Steve Stopper from Save Starlight. Steve.
Aha. Hello. Actually, Johnny, can you, Angelique Gadish should be able to come on. She's the one who can talk better than I about our journey. Can you find her there?
Yeah, she needs to unmute.
Hello. All right,
Hi,
thank you so much. So excited here this evening. I'm going to give a quick view and report of Save Starlight. Most recently, we had 2 events, December nights, of course, and then one previously on November 12th. We've been gaining significant traction with our supporters in the community, and we've had just the best conversations with our community members, saying how grateful they are for us, and of course how grateful we are for them for helping us get Save Starlight and the Starlight Bowl back to operational, of course. So for December nights, I wanted to quickly highlight just what we did and what we plan to do in the future. For December 2nd, we had Silent Disco, which was featured on Media Morning. Natasha very gratefully reached out to us, and she asked us to be a part of Media Morning, which was absolutely amazing. Silent Disco has been a really big hit amongst the community members, so we hope to bring that back. And then we also did performances both nights. For Saturday, big headline, we had Santa there, so that was really exciting as well. We've gotten a lot of great responses as well from different park members and goers, and we'd just like to say thank you so much for everyone's ongoing support. It's been so wonderful having Starlight reintegrate into society again. We know that it's been closed for far too long, so we're really excited to be back and up and running. And if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, or any tips for us in the future, that would be great. But we also are going to be continuing trying to reintegrate ourselves into the park as well. So if anyone would like my contact information, I'm more than happy to give that over to you guys. But as for the report, we're doing pretty good. So really great to be here.
Thank you so much. We have no items on the consent agenda this evening, and that wrapped up our partner update. So with that, we'll move on to our action item, which is 201, the Design Review Subcommittee Proposed Implementation. Christina Chadwick is here from Park and Rec to present.
Thank you, Molly. If you don't mind, I'd like to take things out of order tonight with your approval to take the botanical building item first, because we
Of
have a
course.
number of individuals from our contractor team as well as engineering and capital projects that are eagerly awaiting to share updates.
Perfect. Yeah, with that, we'll jump to our info item, which is 501, and it says Michael is here to present, but it sounds like it's a combo of folks, so take it away.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So actually, I'll be kicking it off. Hi, my name is Edgar Lozano. I'm the senior civil engineer with the Engineering Capital Projects Department. And my role is to oversee this project throughout the design and construction. So thank you for joining us today. The purpose of this information item is to give an overview of the CIP project and discuss where we are in the process and what the next steps are. All right, so the Botanical Building is one of 4 structures that was designed to be a permanent in the park as part of the 1915 Panama, California Exposition. To this day, it remains one of the largest lattice structures in the world. One of the distinctive features of this building is the majestic window arcades, which were designed in the Spanish colonial revival style and wrap around all around the building. Another distinctive feature includes the redwood lath roof, which originally the architects intended to showcase and highlight California's abundance of redwood trees back in that era. So this is a picture of what the building looked like last year. As you can see, there was a major renovation done back in the 1950s. During that time, the window arcades, which wrapped around the building, were removed and instead replaced with additional wood lattice in its place. That wood lattice has discolored over the years, so much so that the maintenance staff has needed to paint and repaint the wood to keep up its appearance. And just overall, the entire building has undergone significant wear and tear over the years. Primarily damage from water penetration, causing severe dry rot to wood members and heavy corrosion to steel members. So this is a rendering of what the future building would look like. As you can see, the project will be a complete restoration of the building to bring it back to its original glory. Our scope of work will include all of the necessary structural repairs and all of the upgrades and improvements necessary so that the building can last decades to come. As I mentioned, we will restore the building back to its original 1915 look. So this means that the window arcades are coming back and will be placed on all 4 sides of the building. Another feature that's coming back is the roof's distinctive natural redwood color. All of the existing wood lattice will be replaced with brand new redwood. So this is what the building construction progress looks like now. The building closed to the public in January of this year. Mobilization, staging, site preparation kicked off in the same month. And one of the first activities that occurred was removal of the plants. Many plants were salvaged or removed, and some of the larger, more rare species were protected in place and will remain protected throughout the duration of construction. Next was the demolition of all the planters and walkways, followed by grading of the site. And then lastly, the picture on the right shows some of the selective demolition that we have done on some of the decorative wood elements. What we want to emphasize is that all of this work was necessary in order for our engineers to do a complete and thorough structural investigation of the structure and better understand the condition of the building. So this slide shows some of the activities completed to date, such as bridging documents completed back in 2020. Project was advertised via request for qualifications and request for proposal in June of last year. We awarded the project in September of 2021. And then, like I mentioned, the plant salvaging grading was completed in March of 2022. Next steps for this project is to obtain our building permit so that the remainder of the construction could really get underway. And we're expected to receive our building permit this month. Construction operations will be ongoing until the project is complete, and hopefully we open doors to the public in the winter of 2023. However, we do want to emphasize that, this is only an estimate and the project could experience delays, such as an increase in the amount of repairs needed, as well as delays in delivery of material. Right now, the construction industry is just experiencing an increase in supply chain shortages that could affect delivery times. All right, so that wraps up my piece. Next, I'll turn it over to Mike with the Starlight land planning to go over the conceptual planting design for the interior of the building. Mike, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can share your screen.
All right. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Mike Spohr with the Strata Land Planning. We're the landscape architectural sub-consultants on the project. Also assisting us is Nan Sturman, the renowned local horticulturalist and author. Nan is responsible for much of the interior planting design and has been extremely helpful. She did quite a bit of research into the original design intent of Alfred D. Robinson. Much of his design was originally based upon a dream he had that he wrote about, that you can see there. Overall, Nan used that as a starting point for her design. Overall, the design will create 3 distinct experiences in the space: the east, the west, and center, as dictated by light and the spatial feel. It will include many plant materials that are not often typically seen in home gardens. We'll use as many of the salvage plant materials as possible, using plants with fragrance and growing plants on walls and arches and other growing surfaces, and vary the layout of the larger plants and repeat smaller plants for consistency. This is a copy of our planting plan with a lot of labels and notes and things removed for clarity. First is the east wing here, which is shadier and wetter. Of course, there's the large ficus tree back here. We also have a Roxburghii ficus, a mango, a palm, and another palm cluster here. So this east wing is going to be shadier and wetter. We're going to incorporate quite a few of the salvage plants here, and so we'll have kind of the similar feel to what the design was on the east side. This will be where a lot of the thirstiest plants will occur, and we'll have emphasis in green, serene, and we'll punctuate with pops of color. Along the east wall here, we're proposing some green walls that will give us some immediate interest, and those green walls will evolve and change over the years. And then also we'll be using moist growing epiphytic orchids and succulents and air plants to dress up some of the bare trunks of the trees. The central rotunda here is going to be a transition zone. It's going to be one of the main entry zones. So this is where we will develop a beautiful, welcoming space for the visitors. We'll create an interesting background to support changing plant displays, where here we're currently locating places where staff can change out seasonal displays. And we also would like to mount staghorn ferns above the arches and doorways on the north end and also here at the southern end. And we'd like to focus on texture and repetition of plant edging surrounding the rotating displays. Then on the west wing, that will be sunnier and drier, and it's not going to be xeric, but it's going to be drier than the more tropical east end. So this is where we'll use an updated plant palette with a heavy emphasis on flowering plants, oversized grass-like textures. There'll be less thirsty plants here. We'll have some fast-growing vines on some of the metal archways. We use lots of colors, and we'll use a Dutchman's pipe vine on the ends here on trellis to help complement the green wall on the east end. And also we'll use a lot of fragrant plants. The proposed planting plan has over 120 different plant species and over 1,200 plants total. The planting includes 13 plants that are protected in place, including the ficus here, tree ferns, 2 palms here. We have a number of lady palms and Australian tree ferns that are saved there, and the same over on this end here. We also have a palm here and a palm here. And then over 70 plants were salvaged and are being maintained at the Balboa Park Nursery. Of those, 40 different plant species were salvaged, and 28 of those are in large boxes, 48 and 54-inch box. There are 2 plant review cycles left over. We just submitted our first review cycle a few weeks ago and look forward to seeing responses soon from the city, which we will incorporate into the drawings. Just a quick review of some of the plants that we're looking at. This is the Roxburgh fig that's existing and protected in place. Some of these images are mature plants that we got on the internet, but it gives you an idea of what we're trying to do here. Using a salvaged fishtail palm, we have Australian tree ferns and cycads, a number of cycads, Australian fan palm, and this Lulu palm. We're also looking at using on the east end heavy textures with elephant's ear and anthuriums. Quite a few bird's nest ferns were salvaged out of the building, and some in box sizes that we plan on reusing. Also plan on using Mexican pepperleaf and other fragrant foliage plants. In addition, there'd be ground covers, ferns, and accents such as ferns, begonias, different types of orchids, trailing colorful ground covers, and then Tillandsia epiphytes that we're proposing to put on the tree trunks to give it more life and interest. And then also at the east end, we're looking at using a green wall such as this is from the San Diego Botanic Garden that will evolve over time, but will give you instant color and texture. Then the rotunda plants, we're looking at introducing a high plateau coconut palm, some more cycads that were salvaged. There's a number of existing palms and tree ferns that were saved in place. We're looking at using abudulons, a coffee plant, so people can see where coffee actually comes from, plumerias and other fragrant plants, aeoniums for color and texture. We salvaged a number of giant leopard plants that we'll be reusing, and different types of philodendrons, and then also epiphytic orchids and mistletoe cactus that will grow on the trunks of the trees. And lastly, in the west wing, again, this is the more drier but more colorful and textured side. We're looking to put to flank the west doors that go out into the new west patio with Chinese fringe tree that will give us a nice light bloom, a really distinct cabbage tree which gives you really nice texture and color, a Mexican weeping bamboo which is very light and airy, golden fuchsias and dombeas for coarse texture and color. And then again, more bromeliads and climbing vines and Tillandias on tree trunks and bromeliads again. So, that's essentially my presentation. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Looks like we have a question from Chris.
Yeah, I'm just curious. First of all, I'm very excited about it. I think it's really, really cool. I can hardly wait. In terms of pollinators, how does that work? You know, obviously there's spaces between the laths and whatnot. Do we provide for pollinators outside of it or inside, or what are the primary pollinators for these?
Well, Nan is including some pollinators, and again, this was our first brush at the planting design that we will, work to develop and fine tune as we go. But she is definitely interested in pollinators and having those as a part of the ecosystem in the building.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Burr?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. It looks really fantastic, and I just wanted to let you know that it's coming along wonderfully. I've been out kind of cruising by once in a while and really excited to see it happen. Thank you.
Chris?
I have one more question. Obviously, we focused on the rotunda. It looks like it's primarily, sort of a walking venue. Are there benches and places for people to sit and sort of imagine a different life? I mean,
yes,
it's
there
so
are,
beautiful. I mean, I can imagine going there and not wanting to leave. Do I have to continue to be ambulatory to enjoy it, or where do I sit?
No, there are a number of benches throughout the venue, as well as having accessible companion spaces next to those benches for those who are in wheelchairs. And there are 2 fountains, a hand-carved fountain on the west end, and then a nice almost reflecting pool with a copper spillway on the east end. So it's going to be a very nice place to stay and just hang out. And there are benches and place to enjoy.
That'll be my new office.
It looks like Makeda had her hand up, but I don't.
Molly, can I can't figure out how to raise my hand electronically. In my
Sure, Makeda just came on video, so let's do Makeda and then Howard.
Thank you.
Yes, I was interested in if there was water there, water coming down, but you mentioned the fountains and also the pollinators. That's incredible, because that's what we're dealing with. And also we're dealing with plants playing music. I would love to hear some of your plants, because that was our National Science Foundation grant in the plant intelligence. So I would love to hear the plants playing music.
Yeah, there other than the fountains, there's not another water feature. There is a misting system that will be installed to help keep the humidity up. But again, 2 very nicely designed fountains that will give you an excellent atmosphere, wonderful atmosphere.
Howard has his hand raised too.
I did it. I found it. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. My quick question: you're hearing some ideas here, and at the next and the topic that we're going to discuss after this is a design review subcommittee approach. Where would, in your mind's eye, in this process of a rehabilitation of a classic historical structure that we all know and love, would a subcommittee like ours, would it help, or did you do any public engagement that I missed while you were giving the presentation?
Again, this is a design build project, so I'm part of the design build team. So we came after the RFP, and as far as community interaction, I don't know if there was some during the DD phase or not. There has not been any during our phase.
I thank you. I know I'm kind of asking for the next item, but do you have a QA/QC process that involves any third-party outside review of your project with any quality control, quality assessment?
Oh, yeah, besides Park and Rec, RNT and Spurlock are also reviewing our drawings. Since they yeah.
Well, please, at what, when?
At each submittal phase.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just want to add, you know, there was a lot of work done prior to the city taking on the project, you know, by the Forever Balboa Park group and you know, their consultants, R&T, which the city has retained. So there's that continuity. And I know they did do a lot of public outreach. Christina, I don't know if, you know, if you have more of those details, but I believe they presented to this committee several times. So there is some history there.
I would agree. Thank you, Edgar, for the question, and Howard, of course, for the question as well. Yes, there has been a robust public outreach engagement process as part of not only the exterior, but the interior project. If you have any questions about it, we're more than happy to answer those for you. But as far as commingling this item with the next one, I'm not sure where you're headed with that, Howard.
Yeah, and I think we're going to jump to the next item. So let's stay on what is agendized for this item. At this point, it looks like we are out. We don't have any additional committee member comments. I did not see, I'm sorry, I did not jump initially. My brain is in the fog with this call to any public comments. Johnny, I'm not sure if we have any.
No hands raised.
Okay. So with that, we will thank staff so much, Edgar and Mike, for being here. Really appreciate it. And we will go back up to our action item for the evening, which is item 201, the design review subcommittee proposed implementation. And Christina is here.
Hey, Molly, just real quick question. Are we doing the phase 2 one too?
Yep, sorry. Yes, sorry. We'll go straight into the phase 2 one, Elizabeth.
So actually, thank you so much. Excited to share with everyone the exterior part of the renovation of the project. And to do that, Jackie Higgins, who's our VP of Planning here at Forever Balboa Park, is going to give the presentation. Jackie, are you able to, are you set up to do that with this particular Zoom arrangement? So Johnny, can you make Jackie a panelist so that she can give the presentation?
I think is right now.
She just looks like she just came over.
Yeah.
So
Great. So while she's getting set up, and we have a deck. There she is. Hi, Jackie. Jackie.
Hi guys. Thanks, Johnny.
Turning it over to Jackie to give this next section. Thank you so much.
Johnny, should I share my screen?
You can, if you need me to, I can too.
Okay, I can do it. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much, Johnny, for allowing me the time on the agenda. Good evening, Chair Chase and committee members. Thank you for your time and your commitment to our beautiful park. As Elizabeth said, I'm Jackie Higgins. I'm the VP of Planning for Forever Balboa Park, and our organization has a history of collaborating with the city on different projects, and this one in particular since about 2015, which actually predates quite a few of us here tonight. So with that, I'm going to just kind of run through the scope of work for phase 2 and just remind everyone how this project came to be. So Forever Balboa Park, our organization helped to advocate for this project to identify the issues and the needs surrounding the botanical building and gardens. And we were able to raise private funds to help support and to fund the basis of design report, this conceptual plans, which we use to advocate for federal, state, and city funds for bringing this project forward. We also work with the city to help make a naming and donor recognition program for the various projects in the city, and specifically Balboa Park. And back in December of 2019, we gifted what came the bridging documents, the construction documents for the city's capital improvement project. So with that, we are continuing to work with the city, and our scope for phase 2 will be done through a right of entry process. And the capital improvement parts of phase 2 are reconstructing the historic pergola that once laid on that western lawn, the exterior gardens that surround the botanical building, and renovations and repairs to the exterior fountains, as well as some upgrades to some of the walkways around the site. As many of you have probably seen the picture, this is the historic picture of the pergola that once was on that western lawn of the botanical building. It's very similar to the pergola that you'll find in the Alcazar Garden, except it's 2 bays larger. So that's one of the kind of new construction, but it's really a historic reconstruction. There will be opportunities to acknowledge donors in that process, in that area, as well as other areas of the project internally and externally. So this is a footprint of the phase 2 exterior garden improvements. And when we talk about that, we're talking about climate appropriate plantings, water smart irrigation, rejuvenated lawn and common areas, and state-of-the-art irrigation and landscape lighting. This is a rendering that we worked with the architectural and landscape architectural team, just to give you an idea of what we envision to rejuvenate these areas of the park. The exterior fountains, we talked a little bit about the interior fountains, and so the exterior fountains are part of phase 2. And there was a restoration that was done on these fountains about a decade ago. But because our park is so popular and gets so much use, these fountains do need to be restored and repaired once again. And so that is part of the phase 2 scope of work, as well as the walkways that run north and south and east-west. So that's also part of phase 2 capital improvement projects. Part of phase 2 also includes more than just the capital improvement projects, but it's also raising funds and awareness for education and for public engagement programming, and also for raising funds to continue to support our Garden Stewards volunteer program that will continue to support Parks and Recreation in their continuous maintenance and enhancement of the gardens surrounding the botanical building. So as far as the timeline is concerned, we're currently in phase 2 design and permit, or putting together our RFPs for our designs. We're looking at the end of 2023 and the first part of 2024 for implementation of phase 2. And then the engagement and maintenance will be ongoing after that. We do have a website that you can take a look at for further information. And with that, I'm happy to open up to questions.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Maybe there we go. Do we have any public comment on the site, or yeah, I see Danielle Lehman.
Danielle Lehman.
There we go. Okay. Hi, Jackie. It's Danielle. I just had a quick question about the exterior plants that were by the doorways. Several years ago when you were presenting this, and I remember we were back at the Santa Fe room, I had asked about those butterfly bushes, the bushes that are quite tall, and they had the monarch butterflies with the chrysalises on them. I was just wondering, were those saved or are they still in place? And if not, could you reinstitute those there by the doorways? Is that possible? Thanks.
Yes, great question, Danielle. Those two were absolutely saved. They were protected in place. They were part of our protect in place and salvage plan that was put together prior to phase 1. And so those are currently actually doing very well. I saw them the other day. So they're in place and they're continuing to thrive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to committee member comments. Chris?
Yeah, I was just curious. Would you say you're sort of leaning towards indigenous plants and that sort of thing on the exterior of the, obviously what's going on in the other area, in the enclosed area. So are you doing mostly indigenous plants? And then I'm curious also in terms of fauna. Over the decades, we've seen turtles and frogs and koi and sunfish and everything you can imagine in the pond. Do you envision that being just cleaned out from time to time, or are we going to put some indigenous amphibious critters in there?
So yes, the planting plan will definitely play off of some of what the plantings, enhance and complement the plantings from the internal planting schemes, but the external plantings will definitely be more climate appropriate. And because we have such a large area, we have an incredible opportunity for a lot of diverse plants in the external gardens. And there are some, microclimates with shade from some of the large pine trees, some of the large fig trees that are mature. So we are not at construction documents now, so we don't have the exact plants, but they definitely will be climate appropriate plants, and they will acknowledge the different little microclimates from the different areas because of the surrounding buildings. The second part of your question, as far as the lily pond and the amphibious creatures, the lily pond itself is in really good shape. And so the pond itself is actually not part of phase 2 scope of work. So that the city will continue to, maintain and operate that as we move forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other committee member comments? Seeing none. With that, I just want to thank Elizabeth and Jackie, and we had a naming opportunity to come to Park and Rec Board last month. I mean, obviously the work of city staff on just the actual building, but it wouldn't be the same without the partnership. And I was with Jackie a long time ago in some of those initial meetings. And I'm just it's wonderful to see something come to fruition that's going to be just such a great addition to the park and an improvement and something honestly a long time ago I thought was such a pipe dream. So it's taken a lot of work, and a lot of people on this call, a lot of others who are still with the city or no longer with the city. So we appreciate the update, appreciate the work, and look forward to seeing more.
Thank you, Molly. I just want to hand it to Christina Chadwick. Actually, she is the champion for making the naming opportunities and donor recognitions and working hand in hand tirelessly with us for that. So thank you, Christina.
Yeah, I think right back at you all. If it wasn't for you all securing a donor, we wouldn't have the work on our end either. So thank you. And I know that the work that we're all doing is going to make a measurable, wonderful impact for the park for generations to come. So this is a really wonderful project, and thank you.
And I made the plug ask to Christina earlier, and I will we'll see if there's a way we can do this without violating the Brown Act, maybe breaking it up, and in the future is maybe we can get some Balboa Park committee members out there to take a look at the project. Would be fun to see.
That would be great. We would love a chance to do that. And I want to chime in and just say thank you for this amazing public-private partnership, which I think is a great model for our park overall. So thank you all.
Yeah,
absolutely. And to your point, Molly, that is a wonderful idea. And to the extent that we're not going to violate the Brown Act, yes, we will find a way to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to experience the botanical building as it is now, and to really see what the inside of the construction site looks like. So that should be a perk for all of you for the work that you do. So we'll make sure to make that happen.
Perfect. Thank you all. With that, we will now we will go back to our action item this evening, which is item 201, our design review subcommittee proposed implementation. So Christina, thank you.
Yes. All right. This is the item that everyone's been waiting for. Okay. All right, tonight we are seeking committee input on the creation of a design review subcommittee of the Balboa Park Committee, comprised of members of the existing committee who possess qualifications in the area of design and development. So for all of you, please go ahead and pull out your staff report. There are a number of pages with a lot of detailed information, and I want to make sure that everybody has that in front of them should you have questions about it. But going back to the historical elements of this proposal, prior to 2016, the city's Park and Recreation Board had a standing design review committee consisting of volunteer design professionals. The proposal before you tonight would create a subcommittee exclusively for Balboa Park. 2 years ago, an informal working group came together to evaluate project processes, and to propose recommendations for greater design input for Balboa Park projects. According to the group, the benefit of such a subcommittee would be to seamlessly integrate supplemental design advice into the review process while not needlessly delaying the delivery process for projects. Conversely, it is unknown whether or not the creation of this subcommittee would streamline and expedite park projects as advocates have intended. The creation of this subcommittee would add an additional governmental layer for both the project applicant and city staff. If adopted, the subcommittee review would become part of the public input process consistent with the master plan and city council policy 600-33. If adopted, the subcommittee would meet at the request of the Balboa Park Committee and staff. If adopted, the scope of work for what projects would be appropriate for consideration by the subcommittee is outlined in the staff report for further review. If adopted, the subcommittee would be comprised only of existing members of the subcommittee who have a proven track record of professional expertise in the areas of design, planning, and park development. There is a summary of these professions in the staff report for your reference. If adopted, the committee chair would seek input and nominations for existing and qualified members for participation. The proposal before you tonight calls for 3 subcommittee members, again, made up of qualified professionals with expertise in these areas. This subcommittee would be subject to the Brown Act and requires meetings to be open to the public and properly noticed for public participation. Finally, the staff support for this effort would come from the Asset Management Division of the Park and Recreation Department, and the subcommittee would likely begin its work in early 2023. So I would like to now open it up to questions. I know that this is a highly anticipated and long-awaited item for many of you, so I welcome your questions, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Mike Stepner.
Thanks so much. Yeah, let's take a public comment. Mike.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight in front of the committee. I had the privilege of chairing the Balboa Park Design Review Exploratory Committee, along with Connie Matsui of Forever Balboa Park and Renee Smith of the Committee of 100. We had a broad-based committee representing different interests in the park, many of the organizations, as well as city staff. Christina was one of our key players, as well as Michelle Abella Chong. And we also had input from other city departments, including the Historic Resources Board, who provided a lot of information about how such a system might work based on their experience. And we also interviewed a lot of people that were former city staff, former members of the Design Review Committee that Christina mentioned, and the consultants who prepare projects and bring them forward to the committee for approval and consideration. Christina said it was 2 years. I want to say it's 3. I want to say that we started in August of 2019, in front of this committee when the West Mesa toilets were before you. And there was a lot of discussion about why it was taking so long, a lack of transparency in the process, the means to provide public comments or any comments on the design of the project. Subsequent to that, one of your members, Howard Blackson, Renee Smith, and myself wrote an op-ed for the Voice of San Diego, which led the Park and Recreation Department to form this committee to review how the process had worked previously, what went wrong, why the process was eliminated, And how might a new process really serve the best interests of the park and the city? I want to thank my committee for all the work they've done. And on behalf of that committee, I want to urge that you consider this favorably and move it forward. The proposal allows for early review of a project in the design process so that questions and suggestions can be addressed before the final drawings are completed. And we use the process that is very similar to what we're proposing that the Historic Resources Commission uses to review historic preservation projects that come before them. In addition to really focusing on Balboa Park, which is what this committee is about, it is also a pilot project for the Park Master Plan. And in your staff report, Christina has provided some information about the recommendations of the recently adopted Park Master Plan regarding design review. It's also a pilot project for the prioritization study that is going to talk about design as well in this process. And it's also a pilot project, we believe, for the design of a public realm, the public realm, a discussion that is ongoing in the city related to one of the outcomes that may come out of the World Design Capital designation that the city received recently and will be honored in 2024 as the World Design Capital. I would like to add a point of clarification, if I may. Christina mentioned that we don't know how long this will take or whether it adds steps to the process or time to the process. What our experience has shown, however, here in San Diego and elsewhere, that a process with early consideration and early review in the process speeds it up. It actually expedites the process. Conversation and consultation can help to avoid controversy. There's an old adage, the faster you try to go, the longer it takes. And we in San Diego, in many respects, are the poster child for that adage. And the question of design quality and relation to equity, to climate change, to why we gather in public parks has become really more and more important.
Hi, Michael, you've exceeded your time. Next person is Renee Smith.
Madam Chair, committee members, city staff, fellow citizens, and Balboa Park lovers. We're all lovers of Balboa Park, else why would we be here? My name is Renee Smith. For more than 3 years, I had the wonderful opportunity to work alongside so many of you crafting today's agenda item on design review. During that time, under Mike Stepner's leadership, our committee held a series of meetings that were marked by congeniality and collegiality, where items of potential contention were handled with civility and courtesy. What could have been contentious was something I looked forward to because I knew the environment we were in. I sincerely hope that if accepted, this proposal will be implemented with the same degree of consideration. I would like to make one point, though, echoing what Mike said. There is a trove of validated research demonstrating that effective design review can expedite projects, improve the quality of the project while reducing costs. I would be remiss if I did not stop long enough to sincerely thank city staff for their indefatigable support. Christina Chadwick was always pleasant, thorough, and clearly expressed the city staff's position. And a thanks to Michelle Abel-Lashan for her deep knowledge of park operations history and relationships and most reasonable solutions. There were many others as well, and I thank them too. If accepted, please call on our committee so that we can turn over our nearly year and a half of meeting information of potential value, such as our tailored questionnaire responses. As Secretary of the Working Group, I will be happy to provide the appropriate documentation at your request. Thank you very much.
That's all I have for public comment.
Thanks. With that, we'll start with Chris.
All right. I'm just curious. So first of all, this committee issues would be directed to this committee or to the review board or review group by this committee. And is this review panel are they members of this committee who would otherwise be weighing in within these committee meetings, or are they outside, or is it some members and we have others from outside of this committee that are also going to be weighing in? I just was curious about that clarity.
Yes, I can take that question. Thank you so much. It's a good one. The subcommittee can only be comprised of existing Balboa Park committee members, which otherwise means that no members of the public can participate. So the existing members of this committee only.
So these people would be weighing in this committee meeting regardless.
That's
right? They would be a part of it. So we're saying we're going to take those few people and basically we're going to separate them from the distractions of this committee, like me, for instance, and let them cogitate on that and then report back to this committee.
Yes, or theoretically, yes.
Okay, so would there be an obligation to refer all of these sorts of things that fall into a certain category to these three people? Or is it sort of discretionary as to whether we send it to them or not? Some things we don't, some things we do.
It's discretionary. It would be discretionary.
And how many?
Of course, depending on the set of criteria that's included in the staff report, some things would not go before this body and some may, but of course it would be discretionary based on feedback and need from this specific committee and also from city staff.
And is there a limit on how many times it could go back to them? In other words, you know, can it go back and forth, or do they get one swing at it? Because my concern is, you know, we're volleying this back and forth, and then it really does, you know, sort of impede progress. So, I mean, what I would say is if we refer to this group, they get one swing at it, and you know, and that's it. Otherwise, if we say, oh, you know, oh, now we need more clarity, go back and study this and go back and study that, well, we've really complicated the process.
Yes, thank you for that question as well. It's another good one. The staff report does contemplate one visit to the subcommittee would be sufficient unless, of course, the project applicant chose to go back and seek additional input from this subcommittee.
I think that could be an impediment. I mean, that, you know, I mean, obviously that's a tactic. You don't get what you want here, and now you want to go back and have it referred back to the review group again. I think that all the facts should be laid out. They're a part of this committee already. They understand all the implications and the issues. They should get one swing at it so things don't bog down. That's my opinion.
They do have one swing at it, but then if the project applicant again chose to go back and seek that additional professional expertise for a second or third time, being their own discretion, then they would of course be open to doing so. But to your point, yes, we would want to inject that professional expertise into this discussion so that this body, the Balboa Park Committee, has that professional expertise to rely on, and then of course would move forward through the CAP or project process from there, as to not delay it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Howard?
Thank you. I think I have one question. How many projects will come from an applicant that's not the city, in your opinion? A lot, a little, none?
I wouldn't be able to predict the future. I don't know. I would imagine that many of them would probably be from the city, but then again, I can't necessarily give you an accurate answer.
And that's because the projects that the committee would look at is broad range, and we've seen private people make these sorts of, and public and private partnerships making these applications that we would review. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, and then I was reviewing the minutes from our last meeting, which a couple months ago, and we had a very good conversation about bicycle racks. But then I noticed something like bicycle racks wouldn't be a part of this committee review, but they will be discussed in the larger, or BPC, the whole committee.
That's correct, sir. There are some things that would not be open to discussion by this committee simply because they're operational. We have operational authority to make decisions on those matters.
But they'll
As
come to
well
this
as-
committee.
As well as additional input from things like leaseholders, which would not be appropriate to put before you unless, of course, the applicant, the leaseholder chose to do so.
And thank you for all these answers. I read the staff report for the first time with this review. But my question is we reviewed bike racks as a committee here 2 months ago. Why did we review, if this is going to be a part of this committee, with these committee members, why would they look at some things and us look at other things if it's the same committee?
Well, I think I would just say that I don't necessarily know that there is a need to put before a subcommittee with particular expertise things that can be approved and considered by a broader base of committee members that don't necessarily have that specific expertise to provide on a specific matter.
So from my recollection, and clearly my brain's not working on full steam tonight, so I could be very wrong and reread the minutes right before this meeting. That was an info item that mobility was bringing forward, so it wasn't an action item, which means they also did not need to bring it to the Balboa Park Committee. They were asking us for our input, very different than saying that it needs to go through a review process like we would be suggesting with the creation of this subcommittee. To Christina's point, it's balancing the need for bike racks, trash cans, pieces of the operations that we want to make sure Park and Rec isn't impeded on without, allowing for the bathroom design that we understand has been so burdensome and problematic.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Christina, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and to honor what Molly is saying here, that she's absolutely correct. It would also depend on how we agendize the item. If it was informational, it's purely for your information only versus necessarily seeking your input for the purposes of implementing those recommendations as well. So that makes a difference.
Well, I completely agree, Christina, with your point that the last design review committee died because it was redundant. And we don't want to make a redundant committee. And yet I'm seeing this set up as a redundancy, as Chris pointed out, because I think the idea that it has to be the Balboa Park Committee members with this expertise that isn't always asked for. It's not, it is a part of some of the criteria, but there's other criteria. My recommendation would be that this design review, and the other thing, there's confusion between early design review advice before a project really gets rolling and our Balboa Park Committee recommendation for the project. So we want to see the project at the end of the process at this committee to make recommendations. And it's very sweet, Molly. And see the project at the right, sorry, keep you for your child. See the project at the end to make our recommendation as a board. But this design review committee should be talking with the project long before this. And so I think there should be a different organizational setup than 3 members that makes it redundant, as Chris said. And I think it should be ex officio design professionals. I served that purpose as a ex officio design. I did not have the ability to vote on the City of Del Mar's design review board. And they wanted an urban designer and architect to do that type of work. And I think if we had 3 ex officios that were architect, landscape architect, and either engineer or park designer or master planner or something, that had one person who I think should be the chair, are the vice chair from the design Balboa Park Committee, because that gives the design review authority or a relationship between Christina, your position, and the relationship to the board members, our position. And that I think that it would be seen more as a technical advice, technical expertise. It truly was technical expertise that was providing early information to these projects, because we know the majority of the projects are coming from Parks and Rec is the reason this thing even exists. This idea has come back, and so I strongly believe that we should avoid the structure that we have because it's forcing a redundancy that we have to avoid. Thank you.
Yeah, and also sorry, Christina, just because I don't want to we've had a number of conversations on this and city attorney opinions, and we're working within the confines currently, from my understanding from staff, on what they have said we could do around this, trying to honor the desire to have a design review committee. So I don't disagree with you, Howard, but maybe Steve Hill can talk about city attorney opinion and sort of why the recommendation was made this way.
Yes, if I can jump in. Thank you, Molly. Only just to say that the city attorney's firm opinion was that members of a subcommittee of the Balboa Park Committee had to be members of the Balboa Park Committee. And so, you know, following that opinion, this is the model that seemed most appropriate.
So there's no editing on that model. This is what we're getting, is what's put in front of us.
Well, if I may just jump in and add, nothing is impossible. Anything is possible, to your point, Howard, and I do understand the benefits of what you're saying. That being said, what's before you tonight would make what you're recommending not possible. So we can certainly go back and take this and bring back a new proposal to this body that would allow for that. That would, though, require city council approval with the municipal code amendment. And that was something that we had explored previously.
For what? For the city, would the municipal code amendment be before the city attorney's recommendation?
Well, the city attorney's recommendation was based on a host of opportunities to try to get to what you're trying to create here. And so there were quite a number of ways to achieve that. This is what we believed to be the easiest path of travel to get you and the community what you're trying to achieve, which is design review expertise injected into the public discourse and conversation as projects are being evaluated and approved. This is the simplest, most direct path of travel to doing that. If you'd like to have the public, as far as you're saying, meaning members that are ex officio members and others that are not sitting on this committee as participating in that official capacity on a subcommittee, we would need to modify the municipal code through an ordinance, and that would require obviously a host of different a host of work and other steps. But for what we're proposing tonight would not be that.
Last part, what we're proposing tonight doesn't have any sort of time frame to it. Is there the ability to say this should be tested as incremental for 2 years and reassess it from there, rather than making it all at once or not at all?
I think that with your approval tonight, we would be able to move forward with a subcommittee of experts who make up of those on this official Balboa Park Committee. And then if you all chose to go a different route at a later date, we can certainly consider that. There's nothing that would preclude you or would say that this subcommittee is in existence for said number of years or months or anything like that. It really would not have a time limit constraint on it.
And I want to make sure we get to Alice and Howard. We can also maybe ask that once the committee is appointed and has had maybe a 6 months of meetings or so a certain amount of time, you know, we kind of have a check-in in terms of what the Balboa Park Committee, we can have a workshop item and see what the feedback is and do a test there to see is this meeting the intent of the public, or is there some additional work that we need to prioritize? Allison?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Howard more. I think it's perfect. But just quick question. We're talking about members and then we're talking about timing, right? So who's going to be the members of this subcommittee? But also, Howard, the best point is the early review of the project. So this is not going to change any sort of timing, how quickly or how early in the process this committee is being reviewed. So I think those are the two really most important points, is having the experts on the committee, however we do it, but also getting the projects earlier. Is anything possibly going to be changed if we do approve this subcommittee to have things earlier?
No, it would not. You would be reviewing projects before they come to the Balboa Park Committee for formal recommendation. But beyond that, the master plan, as well as Council Policy 600-33 and others would not be changed. So this would just be one more decision point and one more piece of information before before a project comes to you for a formal recommendation.
So
Yeah.
it's so close. It's so close. It's almost what we want, right? It's right there, but I do feel, and I think it's been said twice, that the redundancy. We don't want another step to have three people to have the same conversation that we are then going to have a month later. And I don't want people to feel frustrated. I don't want staff. I don't want Christina to have more work on her plate. I want her to come to these meetings and feel like she's accomplishing things and we're getting stuff done. So I just feel efficiency is so important with our staff. With our Parks and Rec department, they are kicking butt and taking names, doing a great job. And I don't want to add any extra layers. I want the review. Mike couldn't have done a better job of saying why this is so important and having such a great group together. And it's so important to our park, figuring out what the best way is forward. But that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I will second the concern about redundancy. I will say, I think that the instance I can think of most recently where I could have seen it would have been helpful to have this was when we were looking at some of the planting designs. I think it was for the Nat. And we really just didn't have enough time, as you may recall. And there was a lot of like line of sight and access and some additional kind of places where I think a majority of us wanted to dig in, and we had a busy agenda. And so in that instance, it would have provided the opportunity for the subcommittee to kind of workshop, highlight some of those concerns, and then hopefully have maybe some minor changes. But those that would have addressed some of the concerns of the group. So with that, I'll go to Chris.
Yeah, it just seems to me that we're introducing this sublayer that requires, they're not going to get the information earlier. What it really does is it requires, kicking the can down the road for this committee to be able to review it. So it really is an additional amount of time. The subcommittee sees the information when we would otherwise see the information, and they ponder it, and then we develop a report to us, and we have to postpone our deliberation until they've completed it. And they're the very same people who are going to be sitting on this committee when that discussion happens as well. I agree with Howard. It's redundant. It's introducing a sublayer, and I don't think it's sufficient. And I also agree with Howard that it would make sense if it was done on a much more preliminary basis, and if it included other members of the community outside of this committee. Otherwise, I don't think we're really accomplishing that much.
I would also like to add, if I may, just jump in here quickly. Of course, it's very important to mention that, there's professional expertise that we would be seeking from these subcommittee members. These subcommittee members then would not be able to bring projects forward on a professional basis, whether from their company or on a personal level, because there would be a conflict of interest there. So if they cannot be opining on these projects, if they were going to be involved in them. So that is a professional consideration for those that may want to pursue this option.
Thanks, Christina. Brer?
Yeah, I just wanted to add my 2 cents on the things that Howard and Chris have been saying. I think one of the strengths of design review is its ability to bring insight from people who have unique and specialized skills and insights. And the fact will always be that those people might not exist on this committee. And while we may have very talented and experienced people that do, I think we're missing a huge opportunity to seek other professional input through this mechanism. I think I mentioned it previously, the opportunity to seek input from people who are involved in the park, who may be artists or other types of professionals, interdisciplinary input, that it can be just as valuable. And that was the only point I wanted to make. Thanks a lot.
If I also might jump in and add another point that I don't know whether or not it was clear enough, but members of this committee are the only official members that may participate as formal members of the subcommittee. However, the subcommittee would be subject to the Brown Act in the same way that this committee is, and therefore members of the public would be able to participate, observe conversations, and play a role. They just would not have a formal seat. Not sure if that makes a difference.
Mike, I see your hand is raised. We already did take your public comment. If you have something different and brief to share, we can take that, understanding your role in this effort. If not, we'll move to any additional committee member comment. Looks like we have Mike and then Danielle Lehman.
I want to clarify a couple of things. I think that we, in the confusion, and maybe Howard raised some of the confusion. One of the goals is to expedite the process, not to be redundant. And one of the things that's in there is that the subcommittee would review projects much earlier, in a much earlier stage. Many times right now, you get a project when the contract is ready to start tomorrow. And this would allow the subcommittee to meet early in the process, offer some suggestions, some comments, to speak to Chris's point about if there are changes to be made or things that could be approved. This is the model that the Historic Resources Board uses. An applicant comes in, the applicant meets with the subcommittee. They talk about the project. When it's scheduled for the actual hearing, the committee, the Historic Resources Commission subcommittee makes a recommendation, but they have talked to the applicant early to make sure that there are things that meet with the goals and objectives of the plans are talked about. And I think that's what we're talking. We really want to have the process early. The staff would refer the project to this committee early in the process. They would review it, come back. The applicant would work on that, and then it would come back to you for the final consideration before it moves on to the next step. And I think also it's a pilot project. Christina wrote in her report, we're not sure how it's going to work, and she spelled that out earlier in her presentation. But I think what we want to do is try it to see if we can, how it will work, and if it has to change by amending things, or the city attorney's opinion changes about who could be on it. I think that's what will be up to this committee, your committee, to consider. And I think the other point that Christina made is very important, is that this is a public meeting subject to the Brown Act, and people can come and say, we think you ought to paint the building blue instead of green. And the subcommittee can take that into consideration and pass along to your full committee if blue is a better color than green. I'm going on about that, but so I think it's. I'm going to, again, on behalf of the committee, I'm going to urge that you move forward with it, so we can test it, rather than try to ask questions that we don't know that are questions yet, and try to answer them tonight. So, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Danielle, looks like you have a public comment, then Howard and Chris, and we are still, we do not have a motion, so if anyone is interested in making one.
Are we taking Danielle's public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Just a procedural question. I'm not sure who can answer it. Would members of the public have to check the website for agendas, or would the email list that Mr. Chow puts out monthly for this committee be also used for the subcommittee to let us know when the meetings are and how we can attend? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Danielle. It would not actually be Johnny's responsibility. Yay for you, Johnny. But yes, the public would be notified in the same way that you are all notified about these meetings. That being said, the staff work that would be responsible for facilitating the meetings of the subcommittee would be transferred over to our department's asset management division, who has more expertise in facilitating conversations about public projects of this kind, so that they would be able to help, of course, with the same level of expertise that we're expecting of the subcommittee. But to your point, yes.
Thanks, Chris, and Howard and Chris.
Howard had his hand up first.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I can feel Mike Stepner and Renee screaming at me virtually, because I feel that if we don't go forward with this, we're going to have the same issues we have with the bike racks, the nats, the bathrooms. We need to improve the design process. We need to up the game. Balboa Park is getting better and better. Everybody's working together to get this done, and therefore the expectations are higher. So I just feel like this thing is kind of set up in a way to be redundant because of the rules that we have. And I think that we should figure out a way to make this work. Yes, anything is possible. I also agree with Mike. I do a lot of work as a private consultant going to the Historical Resources Board, but the Historical Resources Board subcommittee, just like the North Park Planning Group Urban Design Subcommittee, if there's something that is approved on consensus by the subcommittee, it gets approved on consensus by the bigger board, and it doesn't have to be rediscussed. It passes, it moves things along further. That wasn't a part of this. That's not, I think this proposal could be done, could be worked out in a way that better than this first draft is being presented. But it would take more than me sitting here or us sitting here to figure that out. I would like another shot at it, because design is very, very important in Balboa Park. It's the most important place in San Diego for it. So we should take it seriously, and we shouldn't just drop this. It's an important issue, but I still feel like there's some work to be left at the drawing board.
If I may just respond to that, absolutely. We all agree with you that this is a really important matter. If you don't necessarily agree with the proposal that's before you tonight, we can certainly bring it back for additional conversation. Another option that might meet your needs and what you're advocating for, Howard, might be that there's nothing stopping you and a group of qualified friends from evaluating projects and then presenting before this body at any time or place to provide your opinions. But that would not be a formal subcommittee, and it would not come with the attachments and the benefits of having staff support. So there's nothing stopping you from doing what it is that you're discussing now. It just wouldn't be considered a formal body.
Thanks, Christina. Chris?
I think the scenario that Mike described is probably a good one. If it went to this subcommittee and the subcommittee had an opportunity to review it and discuss it and kick it around, and then add to the discussion when it finally came to this committee. But that's not the way it works. What happens is, the way I understand it is, it comes to this committee first, and this committee discusses it, and we have a discussion and whatnot, and then at some point we say, you know what, let's just kick this over to the subcommittee and let them deal with it and come back to us next time. And that's not what Mike was describing. He was talking about, getting in and doing, the digging and understanding ahead of time before it comes to this committee. But again, this committee decides when an issue gets assigned to the subcommittee. So I think we're dragging it out, and I think the way this is set up, it's not efficient, and I don't think it's the best way to do it. The end.
Okay, with that, I think we'll wrap up committee member comment. So far, we do not have a motion, so.
So a motion would be to table this topic, allow for, Chris, I like what you just said. I'm not saying it properly. I'm going to I'll say it improperly, and you're going to help fix my motion. I say we table the action item and give our group a review, a virtual review, and see if we can help achieve the priorities and the goals that we have, that we seem to be encumbered by a city attorney's opine that I would like to see if it's possible. Did they write something that was shared? I'd love to see it, because I do think there are examples in San Diego of other design committees and design review and advisory recommendation reviews that work the way that we're trying to make this work. And so I think we need the time to figure that out. That's a terrible motion. I'm sorry.
Understandable. We can certainly bring this back in the new year and continue the discussion so that we get it right. Because to your point and to the point of everyone here in this room this evening, this is really important, and the future of Balboa Park and the quality of projects depend on it. So we want to make sure that it's done right.
Okay. Anything else from the committee? No. Seeing none. So, Blair? No. Okay.
Is that a motion? Was that a motion?
So.
Yeah.
That was the motion,
Good
a
luck getting
motion
that
with
one
no
down.
second.
So that's why I raised my hand. Howard, you're asking to table to the next meeting?
No, he's asking, from my understanding, Howard's asking to table it until we determine a better format
Yes.
structure.
Molly's correct. Table the
So-
motion until we come up with a better format.
Table
And
and
we'd like to know if there are other options. I mean, you know,
So
what
I'm
are
just
the
gonna-
options?
We have, I will just interject, we have gone through the options as they stand right now. So I from my understanding, unless there's a new desire from.
We do have we have evaluated the options that are available to us. However, what I'm willing to do is, of course, bring them back again, and we can have a discussion, not necessarily for the purpose of creating a subcommittee, but a conversation about what all of the options are, so that when we do make a decision, that you all feel like you've exhausted and understand all of them start to finish. Does that work? Like a comprehensive step-by-step of what the options are available to us.
I would amend my motion to reflect that.
I'll second that motion.
Whoa.
Boom.
Molly, do you want to reread the motion?
The motion sounds like we're gonna have a similar item than we've had previously, and we're gonna talk through the options that are in front of us, and hopefully we can all see what the options are once again. So with that, I will take a vote, and I am gonna actually vote no, because I think we're gonna end up here in a couple months with the same decision in front of us. Let's see, Allison?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Burr?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Victoria?
No.
William Aaron?
Nope.
And it looks like we've lost Makeda and Dang. So with that, it's 4-3. Yep.
4-3. Yes,
Perfect.
correct.
So that passes, and we'll move on. And thank you, Sarah Grossman, for staying on with us to item 301, which is the Art Alive Bloom Bash special event.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for your time, everyone. I'll try to keep it brief, everybody. So I'm the project manager, Museum of Art's annual Art Alive fundraiser. I don't have any visuals because we're just requesting a date change. So basically, normally the Art Alive fundraiser and our permitted Bloom Bash kickoff event happens at around the mid to the end of April. This year, we have a very large exhibition happening very early in May. And so we've had to bring up our event a little bit earlier in the year than we normally would. So we're landed on the weekend that crosses over between March and April for this year's event. The permitted event would be on Friday evening of March 31st. So we're looking for approval to move that up to a different month.
Okay, well, that justification makes sense to me. Do we have any public comment, Johnny?
No public comment.
Perfect. Any committee member questions or comment? No, seeing none. I will say, Sarah, this is, I think, one of the most fun events in the park. And I understand why you need to move it. It's beautiful. And I will make a motion to approve staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
I'll second. It is fun. It's great.
It's so much fun. Molly's made the motion, Chris is seconding it. With that, we'll take the roll. And sorry, Victor, I jumped in on your job earlier. I apologize. I just went around the screen, so I'll let you take it away.
Go ahead, Molly.
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Dang, you said left, correct?
I came back. Yes.
Okay, Dang, yes. Allison,
Yes.
Source. Briar Marsh,
Yes.
Victoria Karan,
Yes.
William Aaron Jr.
Yes.
Did Mike, Makeda Cheatham come back on? No, I don't see her. Chris Eddy,
Yes.
8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good.
Right. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for staying on.
Of course, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too. And with that, we will adjourn to the January meeting of January 5th, 2023.
Thank you all so much.
Fun.
You have a good evening. We'll see you in January.
Thank
Happy
you, everyone.
holidays,
Happy
everyone.
holidays. Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.
Johnny and to Vic for hosting a wonderful December nights and a great meeting tonight. Couldn't do it without you guys.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
Johnny.
Bye.
And here's
Bike
Son.
love behind me, Guerrero.
Nice.
Bike love.
Good job.
Bike love.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
See you guys. Have a good one. Happy New Year.
You too.